Yo, 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 yo. Hey, good afternoon. You probably never expected a panel to start off with that, but I know it's, what day is it? Is it Tuesday? Tuesday. Yeah, this is my first time at ASU+GSV. It's quite an experience, folks. So we're going to have a great time today. My name is Yongpradit. I'm the Chief Academic Officer of K-12 and the lead of an initiative called TeachAI. TeachAI is an initiative steered by K-12, ETS, ISTE, Khan Academy, and the World Economic Forum. Today we're going to be talking about the state of K-12 AI education policy, and specifically the idea of promoting teaching both with AI and about AI. You're in for a treat, because rarely do you get to, actually not even rarely, this might be the first time seeing 4 state superintendents specifically talking about AI in education. So what a treat. Let's give them a round of applause. So starting from our right, we have Superintendent Kirsten Baesler from North Dakota, Superintendent Jhone Ebert from Nevada, Superintendent Catherine Truitt from North Carolina, and Superintendent Tony Thurmond from the great state of California. I'm going to start off with some context setting. It's going to take about 45 minutes, and then we'll go back in time and have it. No, I'm just kidding. It'll be very fast. So I already talked about what TeachAI is, and I want to tell you about some resources we just launched today in concert with a bunch of folks, and I'll talk about them later. But the resources are resources for policymakers and education leaders. So if you're out there and you're in the business of influencing decision makers, these are resources that you can use. From what is AI, to AI in education in the workforce, to classroom perspectives and what students, teachers, and parents think about AI. Now, obviously, we want policymakers and decision makers to make positive decisions about AI in education. And so these resources talk about the policy landscape, US and global, as well as foundational policy ideas. And in fact, those policy ideas were actually spurred on by a couple of these superintendents at a Council of Chief State School Officers conference like over a year ago, where they're like, gosh, we need some, yeah.
Not quite a year.
No, not quite a year, that's right. And yeah, and they're just like, what do we do around AI in education? Can you help? And so a number of folks got together to help. So there are lead partners like AASA, NEA, NASB, Excel and Ed, even the Southeast Asian Ministers of Education Organization, so it's a global initiative. Then there are a whole bunch of partners, including some of the biggest tech corporations in the world. This slide actually isn't updated. There are even more if you visit teachai.org in terms of support. And so you can click that QR code if you want to visit those resources. It's also teachai.org/policy. You're going to see this slide again, though, because we're going to talk about these particular policies in a sec. And again, big old QR code for you to click. And here we go. First question. We're talking about policy, and I have a meta question here. Like, are education systems even ready for policy on AI in education? We know at the federal level, they've been talking about these tech regs, which, don't worry, folks, they're not going to happen. Well, I don't know, don't worry, but they're not going to happen anytime soon. But we're talking to state superintendents right now. Are systems even ready for policy on AI in education? What are the different perspectives on that issue of readiness? And just what do you think? What do you think per your specific state? Let's start off with Superintendent Ebert from Nevada.
Thank you, Pat. It is amazing to be here when you think about all the partners, and it really was less than a year ago when we asked, can people step up and help? And you have, 60, 70, 80 partners on that screen. So the time is now, and people are ready to engage. And when you think about the landscape and where we are, yes, all of us are in different stages as states across the United States, globally, on how we look at AI guidance and policy. I will tell you that in Nevada, it is perfect timing. We just finished our Portrait of a Learner and it starts with 4 questions. It has a lot of the same threads that you see in Portrait of a Learner across the United States: collaboration, persistence, all of those other pieces. But what we did with our Portrait of a Learner, I want to lean in just really briefly this afternoon, is the last question of thriving. How will I thrive? And the last piece to it is, be a person of integrity, making commitments to my peers and community as a whole, and staying true to my values. And when you think about AI and where we are as a society and how we're going to use it, you can think about it the same way as the medical profession, right? We have medical professionals that prescribe drugs at moments in time. They can be very, very helpful. They can be misused, and they can be abused. And so when you think about where we are in AI and our communities and going out and finding out what they know, what they don't know, how to use it, coming together and having those conversations and making sure that we're inclusive, that there's no gaps as we move forward, that we're closing equity gaps, and that everyone has the information they need to make an informed decision so that we all can be extremely healthy moving forward.
Thank you, Superintendent Ebert. Superintendents, what do you think? Are our systems ready for policy on AI in education?
So I think that, ready or not, we need to be. I don't know that state systems or government agencies in general are leading. They're not on the leading edge of things. So I do think that we were caught a little bit on our heels. We shouldn't have been, but we were caught a little bit on our heels when it exploded as it did. Grateful to Code.org and the TeachAI movement that you have all been leading so well, because without that, I think we'd be even, further at a disadvantage. It has helped us tremendously as we're writing our North Dakota policy, our guidances. I think the challenge is going to be to approach the guidance and approach our I hate the word regulation, but it is a part of our work that we must do. If we can look at it and encourage, as I have said before, encourage our teachers, our educational leaders to be curious about what it can do. I really worry that we're going to face it with a deficit mindset and lead with you must not, cannot, shall not. And anytime you have a document that starts with those or stresses, I know that that's important, but I think, I believe as we're leading for our children's future, not our past, we have to be ready for this, and we have to approach it with an open asset mindset.
Superintendent Truitt, Superintendent Thurmond, you all deal with so many issues that are super important. Chronic absenteeism, just getting kids fed. How in the world do you make the time, let's be real here, or time and energy to think about something like AI in education? I mean, we're here because we believe it's transformative, but I mean, kids need to be fed. Kids need to come to school. So how do you even weigh these things?
Thank you. Well, I would say that, first of all, it starts with being student-centered. And our thinking about being student-centered is recognizing that all learning is in service to whatever the post-secondary plans of a student's choice will be. And AI is already in the workplace. And so if we ignore AI, what kicked off what really lit the fire under us was when we saw that one of our large districts had banned ChatGPT, and before we had the chance to issue some guidance. And so I think that knowing that how focused we are in North Carolina strategically on how to realign K-12 education to workforce development, that means automatically that we have got to prioritize AI from a guidance standpoint, but also AI literacy, which we'll talk about in a few minutes.
Yeah, Superintendent Thurmond, what do you think?
It's an honor to be here. Good evening, everyone. Wow, I know we can do better than that. Good evening, everyone. You're tired, you've been to 1 million sessions, and you're like, okay, this is the last one for the day. It's an honor to be here with these great leaders. I would echo the statements. I don't think systems are ready. Because historically, schools struggle to keep up with what's happening in industry, right? But as we deal with students who live in poverty, who are hungry, who need support, we also have to be thinking about how do we prepare students for the jobs of tomorrow or the jobs of today. let's face it, those jobs are happening right now. And so we have to get ready. And we have tools, guidance for sure, but guidance is only as good as the implementation. In our state, we have legislation that I'm sponsoring that will provide a kind of AI workforce or roundtable to think through how to use AI to support educators and what we do for our students. And we've created a STEAM advisory council because we want those who work in industry to really inform schools. Schools fall behind. As soon as something becomes a trend, schools are behind. And so if we want to really catch up, we have to have partnerships with industry to help students understand how to use this technology, which they understand intuitively. We're just giving them a structure for how to use it in their profession and in daily life. And so while systems aren't quite ready, I think they will quickly get ready if we apply all these tools to help educators and students be prepared for the future.
Yes. So speaking of tools, as we look out through here, we see a lot of people who are probably investors, people who are actively creating these tools, and a bunch of other folks like, thought leaders, et cetera. There might be nonprofits who are just informing people about the issues around AI and education. I want to get practical here. What do you need from them? What do you want to tell them to help? How can they help your students? What role do they play in helping your students? And we can start off with Superintendent Thurmond and then go down.
One of the best things is just to show best practices. If there are schools, districts, communities that are using AI in a great way, that will help to minimize the fear, right? Some people approach this with fear. Oh, you're trying to replace teachers. You can never replace great teachers. Or people who are curious, or who think this is just some kind of a sci-fi thing and the robots are going to take over, right? When you can demystify that for folks with examples of places where it's working, I think that's extremely helpful. At the end of the day, I think the more that you can help us see where there are results, did it make a difference? Bottom line, did this help to drive student outcomes? I think when you can lead with those kinds of stories, you're going to be able to engage any district, school, or community to say that we have results and it's making a difference for low-income kids, for kids of color, for kids from all backgrounds. And so we love to see your best practices and at the end of the day be able to answer this one question. As a result of AI, is anybody better off? And how do we know? We have to be able to measure it and show it. And I think the doors will open for you, for all of us.
Yeah, I echo those comments. I'm not going to approach a legislator without some data. And so if that means that you've got to get your product in the hands of a district for free so that you can show them the data before they have money to purchase it, you're going to have a better chance of getting funding from a state. My advice is that you learn what the K-12 governance structure looks like in the states where you want to do business, because it varies widely. And so knowing who the policymakers are, is it the governor or is it the legislature? What role does the commissioner of education have in being one of those champions or not? And then, like Superintendent Thurmond said, data.
Yeah, leaning in and expanding on that, I would add context. Context matters. You have 3 elected officials on the stage and 1 that's appointed by the governor. So the structure within the state, the context within the state matters quite a bit, and don't approach it as we're all the same. We talk about meeting our students where they're at. Make sure you meet those that you're going to serve where they're at as well.
It's the lovely thing about being on a stage with 3 really intelligent people. By the time it gets to me, it's like, yes, all of those. So I will double down. I am a huge advocate for partners. I've been doing this job for 12 years now. North Dakota is not a really high populated state. We're just right knocking on the door of 1 million people. And so that human resources is our scarcest resource. And so I am constantly looking for partners. I can't keep my students on the edge of what's the next best thing without partners. We don't call them vendors. I don't call them contractors. They're partners. But to that point, I think that's just saying it in a different way what Jhone just said. North Dakota is going to be very different. I have 168 school districts. There's such diversity in there. That's nothing like what Tony's dealing with in California.
1,000 districts,
Right,
1,000 plus.
exactly. And so you just have to be, unique, and you have to be willing to be my partner. Partnership is kind of I'm going to try to cut to the chase. I was meeting with the chamber president, our state chamber president, and I wanted to get more apprenticeship work going. This is a decade ago, and I had my plan already, and he laughed at me and he said, "You educators are all alike." And I said, "What do you mean by that?" And he said, "I thought we were talking about a partnership." And I said, "Well, we are." And he said, "Looks like you're wanting me to support your plan." We can talk about that, but that's a different conversation. Partnership is where you get kind of gritty and dirty, and it's not off the shelf. And so that's how I approach partnerships. And I think it's very important that you all are working with us and partnering. We can't do it for our kids. And work with each other, because we like to build coherent systems. We don't like our children or our students to be in isolated silos. So if you could work with each other so we can build a coherent system of learning, that's very helpful as well.
Wow, those are really great nuggets, folks. So hopefully you've been taking notes in terms of your own strategies and how you approach the state side of edtech. I heard elected, so I want to talk about politics. All right? And I want to talk about, so the point of this panel is to provide people fresh perspectives on AI in education. They've been to a bazillion, using your fingers, show me how many AI in education sessions you've already been to at ASU, GSV, whatever. You need to use that. Okay, yeah, someone's going like this, like 25. Yeah, so, all right. So hopefully this is a fresh perspective. You all are targets for any complaints about education, and even things outside of education. And we've talked about this. What are the different political perspectives on AI in education in your states? You don't have to make a judgment of any of those perspectives. Just share with us some of the things you're hearing from Facebook groups, parent Facebook groups, from your peers, whatever.
It's the widest range as you can imagine. You have some that are AI enthusiasts, and you have some that they just want to take the internet out of the libraries. And that's not a joke. That's actually occurring in one of our state houses in the nation right now. One of our colleagues is dealing with that. And so, yes, you're right. There's a lot of people that are excited. Let's go. Let's move. This is going to be great for our kids. And there's the other side of the spectrum that's like, nope, there's too much unknown about it. I have been in this position for 12 years, and so I remember the Common Core battle, and then the statewide testing battle with Smarter, Balanced, and Park, and what are you going to do with our children's data? So there's a lot of hangover from that still. So it's real.
I have not faced a whole lot of pushback yet. I think that the more we see this show up in classrooms, because I think we're just on the verge of seeing this in classrooms. I think what you're describing, Pat, is coming pretty quickly. But I think that the data privacy piece is, I mean, there are some things that I've heard about in the last couple of days that make me go, ooh, but what about the data privacy piece? And that's always going to be a concern when it comes to student data and student privacy. But I'm thrilled to say of all of the mean tweets and emails I get,
should have done that. Superintendents read mean tweets.
Yeah,
Jimmy, that would have been hilarious.
Real. Yeah.
Next time.
Yeah, just like on Jimmy Fallon, mean tweets. Yeah, so I'm thrilled to say that our guidance has been out since January, and I have not received any pushback.
That's good guidance.
It's very good guidance. Thank you.
I mean, could we just talk here, all right? I don't even look at the comments in Twitter or any other form of social media, because the things that you see sometimes are just quite disheartening. And I would say at least since the pandemic, we've seen some of the worst kind of politics in education, something that shouldn't be political but does become politicized. Every student deserves to have access to a great education. There are lots of students who grew up like me in a household where we didn't have food half the time, and we struggled. But education was that great equalizer, and it can make a change. But we have seen a kind of politicization that if you're a state superintendent, or a local district superintendent, or a teacher, you are targeted. Sometimes even with death threats, people will threaten you over educational concepts. Now, education has to rise above that and make sure that we create great opportunities for all students. And so for those of you with roots to North Dakota, let's make sure we get Superintendent Baesler elected again for another term, because of the work.
Any people,
Yes,
well, are there any
yes.
folks from North Dakota here? Oh,
Hey, look at that, connecting the dots.
all right.
You know,
I've never seen people from North Dakota other than Superintendent.
Wow.
I'm serious. I'm serious.
Don't
I'm
lose-
going to visit there for the first time, in fact. So yeah, I'm going to see a lot of them.
Don't lose the superintendent the votes. We just got her. But this should not be about politics. People fear what they don't know. And anything new, there's always going to be some resistance. But this is a great tool, and it's coming whether we like it or not. And so we should get behind how do we use it to enhance education. I love the states where I hear AI is being used to teach teachers how to teach coding. We can do great things, and these are tools to enhance what we do in the classroom, in our schools, and in spite of the politics, we have to move it forward to support all of our students.
Superintendent Ebert, what's the craziest thing you heard about AI in education? Craziest opinion?
Thing.
Craziest opinions, stakeholder opinion, whatever.
Well, I would go just the data. You know, I mean, everybody. I had heard one speaker earlier is AI for her was all of the those movies, where you know, the taking over the universe and all of those pieces. But what's interesting in the Nevada context, and when you think about the Las Vegas Strip, you think there's AI used along the Strip, right? A lot, heavily. So we are, as a state, we use it quite a bit, quite often, and so, you know, those community members know how it works in the workforce, works in business, and so I think in our state it's really a position right now of curiosity, right? How are we going to use it for good in the classroom to make sure that we equalize and students have access to it? Yeah, I'll have to think about that.
Well,
I'm blessed.
That is great. It's great to hear that there's not too much craziness happening, and hopefully we stay immune from that.
We can talk about other kinds of crazy if you want.
We could. We'll say that.
But we won't. Right?
Yeah. Well. Yeah. I want to keep on poking at this. You know, I'm not a techno optimist. You know, I'm like many of you all out there. We talk about opportunities and risks, and we're very real with the risks and ethical concerns. You know, one of the things that we want to do with AI is transform education. These are things that, you know, these are reasons why you guys got into the business, why you all got into the business. Do you think this hope that we can potentially use this AI moment to transform our systems, do you think this is realistic? Regardless of what needs to happen to give real change a fighting chance? Superintendent Baesler?
I can answer that question. Absolutely, this is realistic, and absolutely our students deserve it. And many of us have said it in different ways. This is student-centered. We deal with all of the tweets that some read, the comments, and others don't, and because we're so student-centered, and if it isn't going to make a difference for students, then we shouldn't be doing it, but that's why we get up every day and log in and or go to our offices. So I 100% think that it's going to be the next thing. It's not the thing, but as I was saying to you before, you know, I got hired because I knew how to put a 5.5 or 5.25 inch floppy and teach Oregon Trail, because all the other candidates, and only because I happened to be on the other side of 25 and all the other candidates were on the other side. So they figured she knows how to use a floppy disk, and that's how I started this road, right? And I think that we've seen transformation after transformation after transformation. We have our North Dakota Center for Distance Ed. It's our virtual high school, our virtual school, as that's who's in the audience. That's not what it was 15 years ago. It was a correspondence school. The transformation that has occurred in that alone. And again, I think it's about using technology. So the What Works Clearinghouse, right? When we were getting all the money for Race to the Top, the What Works Clearinghouse. The sad thing about that is our teachers are going to, you know, teachers pay teachers, because those great ideas in What Works they're trapped in a 500-page PDF. And who has the time to go through that when they're a third grade teacher? But to use the technology that is available now, take a picture of your third grader's math assignment and she's just not quite getting the steps that she needs to get, you take a picture of that, put it into AI, you say, from What Works Clearinghouse, what are the steps that she's missing, and give me some lesson ideas.
A colleague of mine, John Bailey,
Yeah.
some of y'all know John Bailey maybe, he talks about the What Works Clearinghouse and says that there probably should be some kind of chat interface to allow people to engage with it in a much more approachable way. So I
Right.
hear you with that. So other superintendents, what needs to happen to give real change a chance?
I think we need to dive in and practice it ourselves. I'm teaching a class this summer at UNLV, and I'm like, okay, we need to get AI in the coursework.
In some countries, it's actually you say IA.
Yeah, there you go. So I dove into it myself. I'm going to be using Sherpa with the coursework. Came out of Stanford, and I mean, it right now is so intriguing of how I'm interacting. You know, uploaded some content, the questions. The students will have the time to video, but I'm making sure that I have the opportunity now with the leadership, right? The students that want to become superintendents, want to be building leaders, all of that, that they're actually experiencing it. So higher education right now at this moment, we need to make sure that our pre-service, our in-service, our building leaders are diving in, experiencing it, failing forward, and making sure that it's used appropriately.
Yeah, before they just have opinions about it, let's actually try to use it first. Yes, Superintendent Truitt?
Yeah, I think that in order for this to have a fighting chance, as you said, there must be recognition that before we can teach it, we have to understand it. And we have a teaching workforce right now that by and large doesn't understand this yet. And so it's going to take a large investment from our respective states to provide the training and education, professional development for our current teachers. Our pre-service teachers, as Jhone said, have to get this in their EPPs. And there has to be some recognition that job-embedded professional development, and by the way, we all know, are there any teachers in here? I mean, when was the last time you had a Cracker Jack PD? Probably not all that, yeah. So, thank you. And so I think that
What is this Cracker Jack PD?
Cracker,
We
you mean?
eat popcorn
No,
while we get...
Cracker Jack is old-fashioned for really great, yeah. There's no
Jacks.
popcorn involved.
I mean, that does...
North
make a PD.
Carolina
If
term.
I get to eat some Cracker Jacks while being trained, that is a great PD for me. A PD meaning professional development.
Yeah, but for sure that there has to be really high quality PD that is job embedded, that is ongoing and sustainable, that's not just one and done. Our teachers really, they've never gotten that. Think about, you brought up the Common Core rollout. I was still in the classroom when Common Core got rolled out. We got nothing. We got no help implementing Common Core standards. So we can't do that again.
Yep. So Superintendent Thurmond, just real quick, response, and then we're going to go down the line and have some last words.
So for those of you who want PD, come to California right now. We are going to sponsor 300,000 educators to get professional development in literacy, math. We have to recruit more teachers who are going to be in a position to help our students be prepared for AI. We're offering a scholarship of $20,000 for anyone who wants to get a teaching credential. Just call me 1-800-WHERE-YOU-AT, and I'll make sure that you get the information about how to access that. You asked the question about what do we need to do, and is this a good thing? It gives me hope that you can use AI for life-saving technology, that you can manage data in a way. You know, we have the folks here from All Here who are working with our largest district, one of the largest districts, LA Unified in the country, who have figured out ways to address issues like chronic absenteeism, which has been daunting for many districts. And so we have a great leader here in our county superintendent from Napa, who's right here in the front, that you can, Dr. Nemko, that you can use the technology to help English learner families in our richly diverse state. And so I have hope, but I think we have to first work through our understanding about what it is and what it isn't, and then provide the training and the support for those in our state.
Okay, so we're going to have a lightning round here. If I could get the slides again and some control. I'm going to show those policies on the screen one more time. Yes, great, almost there. Boom. Boom. All right. Lightning round. You have like 15 seconds. Just pick one sentence. Why? Which one resonates with you of these 5 policies? Starting with Superintendent Baesler.
Support innovation. Support everybody that's curious. I'm just going to say too, when we talk about understanding AI, let's not get lost in AI. The root and the foundation of understanding this technology tool and next generation technology tool is computer science. So we have to make sure that we are preparing those kids and supporting curiosity with innovation.
Superintendent Ebert.
Promote AI literacy. I think when people understand what they're dealing with, ethics, all of those components, we'll see it move forward faster.
Yep.
Promote AI literacy also, because to be digitally literate now means being AI literate.
Yep.
Support innovation. For 1,000, Bob, tell him what he's won. A beautiful life. I think it speaks for itself. The innovation will drive performance, will drive change in our community.
Yep. So read more about these policies by clicking that QR code. Let's give a round of applause for these superintendents. Thank you so much. Thank you.